have my green light. Take two. So thank you, Ted. I appreciate you so much. And I'm so grateful to be back. Steve and I, my husband Steve and I, we love coming here. So thank you for having us once again. And happy first Sunday in the month of August of 2018. Wow. Intuition. One New Thought writer says intuition is a natural knowing capacity. It is this inner knowing. It's this immediate apprehension, this grabbing hold of spiritual truth, and it is beyond intellectualizing. So when I see anything that says go beyond the intellect, that tells me to take that, for me sometimes, a slow journey between 12 and 18 inches from here to here, from head to heart, depending on how deeply immersed I am in needing to be intellectually right, needing to be correct, and I have forgotten about the desire to be happy and joyful. That trip can be a bumpy ride. However, the writer also goes on, and the writer is New Thought mystic and Unity co-founder Charles Fillmore. He says this intuitive knowing, he calls the voice of God within. It's a source of understanding, a source of mental action that is based on divine truth. This divine truth we all have. I love that he acknowledges it is innate in every single one of us. Whether or not I'm aware of it at a given moment is a whole different story. But that does not change the truth of what is. In scripture, in Proverbs, it talks about getting. And it talks about getting wisdom. And it also says, in all your getting, get understanding. So there's this dynamic that happens with wisdom and understanding. We want to be wise, and we want to know why, or at least have an inkling as to what the path is all about. And when I say path, what is my path specifically? What is your path specifically? I love to take these teachings and make them personal to me. What does it mean to me? And I invite you to do the same thing. What does it mean for you to know? For me, it doesn't have to be, I know the exact outcome, I know the results, because I will tell you, when I endeavor to know the results, I mess myself up. When I know too far down the line, I tend to micromanage the intuition that comes up, the voice of spirit that comes up, and I say, you know, that's a little task, I'll handle that. You handle the big stuff, and I will mess up the little stuff. When I remember to submit to go into, to release and surrender to, I've learned those are not dirty words. Surrender to my intuition. I am never led down the wrong path. Now hear me. I didn't say I wouldn't be led down a difficult path or a bumpy path or a path I'm kind of pissed off at sometimes. However, that path turns out to be just the path that Kathy required at a given point in time to step up and into the divine potential that I have inside, that each of us has inside. The key word is potential. Each of us is already divine, already created out of love, already created and given gifts, abilities that we can water in our garden of self and nurture so that we can spring forth and blossom, bloom into the divine beauty we have been created to be. So that when we walk our path isn't, it's just not for Kathy alone. It's not for each of us alone. It is for us to walk our path, be the light we've been created to be, shine that light so that we can draw others unto us so that we can be part of the illumination highway that writes what's a little sideways, that adds compassion to what may be void of love and compassion, that speaks truth even in difficult circumstances with wisdom coupled with understanding, using our intuitive knowing. When we share, we do it from an intention of love, an intention of the desire to be peace, to be kindness, to be open, and to be receptive. We have this GPS. For me, we know it's the positioning system, right? So for our cars and other, devices that we may be riding around in. But I like to call it, for me, it's my God positioning system. I have an internal God positioning system, and so do you. And you can substitute the God for any representation that you choose. You might have a UPS, Universal Positioning System. Hey, we all have it. Whatever moves you, whatever term you like to associate with the infinite that has created us, we all have that system. It is in us. It has been in us since before we actually came in this incarnation. So why on earth is it so difficult for me to follow it? Sometimes. I love that phrase, and we'll say, oh, my gut is telling me. I was wondering, what's this gut? My gut is telling me to do X, Y, and Z. So there's this group out in California, the Heart Math Institute. Anybody know Heart Math? Okay. So Heart Math talks about the importance of the heart. But what I love about Heart Math is it talks about the heart brain. The heart has a system of neurotransmitters, just as our brain does. And it sends messages. However, through the Heart Institute, researchers have found that there are far more signals traveling from the heart to the brain than from the brain to the heart. So I said to myself, self, if it seems as though the heart really has it going on, Kathy, why don't I tune into my heart? Because my heart knows what to do. Now that's from a physiological standpoint. Can you imagine from a spiritual standpoint? We say that our heart, is the center of love, and we use that figuratively. However, I'm saying now that physiologically, there is that scientific basis for actually letting us know that the heart really does know what's going on. So, of course, science, and we know this from looking at all the quantum physics and all the big brains out there that are saying, there's evidence. But it's the evidence that has been known for eternity, isn't it? It's science is catching up with what we already know. It's putting in empirical terms, reproducible terms. They're proving their theories and their hypotheses, aren't they? But we know this already. And we know that they're able to do it because it's in the scientists as well. There's no, I'm going to give you a little bit of this, and I'm going to give you a little bit of that, and you back there, you get just a T9C bit of, no. We come here with the full measure of whatever is required to walk us through this life, in this incarnation, in this now moment, every moment of every day. And that just is. We heard the message already. You spoke it in prayer. You sang it in song. It was spoken in meditation. You talked about God within. Spirit within. It's already in there. It's already in here. It's already in each of us. Greg Braden talked about strengthening our heart brain, this connection, this intuitive heart intelligence. And the importance of it cannot be underestimated. If I am in a state of distress, if I am in a state of confusion, if I am angry, the polar opposite of peaceful, I can only imagine the signals that are being sent from my heart to my brain. So my tummy is in knots, my head's going, wah, wah, wah. And all kinds of substances are being released into my system, and my heart's racing, and it's not for a good reason. My pressure's up, and it's, and so out comes the fight or flight of me. And it wreaks havoc on my internal system. What kind of feeling am I tapping into? What are the emotions that are expressing through me? I will tell you, it is not conducive to life. It is not affirmative. It is not uplifting. What do I require myself to do? I require myself to stop. Just cut it out and choose a new thought. Because as human beings, we have that luxury. We can choose. We are always at the point of choice. Even when I forget I'm at the point of choice, I am at the point of choice. I can choose to act, I can choose to react, I can do something, I can do nothing. It's all a choice. What is wonderful is we have this intuitive knowing. We have this divine thread. We have this power and presence that is always in us, and it's always speaking to us. The question is, Kathy, do I silence myself long enough? Do I get quiet enough to hear it? The still small voice always is. Why? Because the activity of spirit always is. The whole spirit of presence always is. It's always giving. It's always loving. It's always being for me. It's always being for you. It cannot not be for us. The saying is the universe conspires in our favor. But it's for me to step forward. It's for me to sometimes sit. Or it's for me to, as I'm holding on to the number 5 train pole in the middle of Manhattan, just too done for words. It's for me to, in that moment, because wherever I am, God is. Wherever I am, Spirit is. Wherever you are, God is. There is no spot where God is not. So wherever we are, we can always stop and take a breath. And that's prayer. Right there. Right there. The language of spirit is prayer. For me, my connectivity to my intuition, that language for me is prayer. It's meditation. It's getting still. It's knowing that I have the opportunity to choose to listen from the inside out and to be informed that there's another way to do things, that I can choose to be a different way in a moment. Now for me, I don't know about you, I'll just own it. For me, it takes practice. Every day, numerous times a day. It looks different. I will tell you, I am not one who can just, for 10, 15, 20 minutes, doesn't work for me. I have not yet found that. However, what I do know is when I ask, it is given. So for me, it may be a 30-second just breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. And everything calms. And in that short time, I can be refreshed, I can be renewed, I can be rejuvenated, I can be redirected to a path that supports life. In the midst of sometimes crucial conversations, difficult conversations, right smack in the middle of it, I may have to just and I have learned that practice makes a little easier. I did not say perfect. For me, practice makes easier. So as I practice it, I can get closer and closer to the autopilot I really desire my energy to go into, to just be able to go whoop, and it's done. You know, flip the switch on, flip the script of my speech, and reset my intention button. I can make that choice. And I do that from the inside. We are gifted with the ability because we are never separate. We just sang it. No separation between me and my God. I don't know about you, but I am so thankful for that. That means when I forget, Spirit has not left me. I'm the one who checks out. I'm the one that forgets. But because we are constructed in the image and likeness of our Creator, we cannot escape. We cannot be severed. I remember as a little girl growing up and going to church, and I was like, oh, you got to find Jesus. Imagine my amazement when I found out Jesus wasn't lost and God wasn't lost. That Spirit wasn't lost. So anyone who practices any other tradition, you know, no matter what it is, whatever the faith tradition, whatever entity one looks to for divine guidance, whoever, whatever, however, that entity is not lost. I lose my way. It's there. It's there. Whoever it is, it's there. So I am so grateful for knowing that I have feelings and I have emotions, but they don't have to control me. They don't have to control me. We have the ability, I have the ability to make a choice. I have the ability to say, you know, I'm going to stop right here and I'm going to go in and I am going to know my truth, that there is no entity, person, there is no place, there is no situation or circumstance that is greater than the power and presence that lives in and expresses through me to walk whatever the path is I am required to walk. That I always have access to it. I always have the ability to choose love. I have the ability to choose wisdom. I have the ability to choose compassion. I have the ability to choose kindness. So this heart wisdom, this ability that's already in us, if we get quiet, and sometimes it feels difficult. We have so many bombardments coming at us, all hours of every day. But we can choose. So for me, to get to this heart wisdom in me, I can choose access. I can access it. I can say, Kathy, you can choose a different way. Go in and find out what it is. Ask so you can be given the divine guidance and direction. So I can choose to say, yes, I will access. And once I access, I must begin a process of activation. So I can access through prayer. And say perhaps there's a favorite prayer I say. I can say it over and over and over. I can walk to work and say it, walk home and say it, walk to the store and say it. If it's just words, they don't land in the heart space. Rote repetition does not serve me. I've got to have an intention activated behind it. So I know I can access, but I have to activate. I have to be present. I know when I'm just repeating something, I am not fully present. But when I am in the now moment, and I can say the same exact prayer, and I have evoked my centering, and I say, I am present to this, and the words that I'm speaking are infused with intention, and the intention of love, and the intention of life, and the intention of creativity, the intention of peace, fill in your blank, there's an activation that happens. And there's a feeling that's accompanied with that activation. And then I must take my third step, and that is to apply it. If I'm just saying it, and I can start feeling all good about it, and I can know it's going somewhere, but if I stay in that spot, I have not applied it. So what action am I going to take? And for each of us, that divine action will be different. It will look different. But we know we must practice. It's a practice. It's not dogma. It's a practice. So we can choose to access. And once I've accessed and begin to know my truth, I can move it down from my intellect and know I'm setting an intention so I can activate it in what I'm representing as my heart space, yes? And then I can do what we say in unity. We say, put feet to our prayers. Right? That's the application. That's the action step. What is mine to do? Often my prayer is, Spirit, speak to me in ways I understand. And a lot of times it's not words. It's a nudge. Sometimes it's a line of lyric in a song. Sometimes someone calls me and says something and it just wakes me up inside. So I ask to be activated and alert and ready to receive. I want to be open and receptive. So whatever the message is coming at me, I can receive it. I can receive it with my whole heart so that I can apply it with my whole self and get busy and move into action. So my question to you today is, how are you going to use your intuitive spirit, your intuitive knowing? How are you going to activate the brain of your heart to guide you to a more full life, to live life more abundantly, to live life with joy, live life with a peace beyond understanding, live life the way each of us has been divinely created to live life, so that when we leave here and move on to another journey, we have indeed contributed to making our space a more loving, joyful, and peaceful space. We all have heart wisdom. Let's use it. Let's put our hands on our hearts. Take a breath. And breathe out. And just feel the gratitude for knowing the wisdom of our hearts is unstoppable. We choose here and now to move forward in more love and more peace and more joy, with more compassion, knowing that our heart's wisdom can never lead us wrong. And so it is.